Hello, Jen Kelly.
Hi, Lee.
Hi. So, the Great American Wheel Race is under your belt, right?
That's right.
You are number one woman.
That's right.
So, how does it all feel at this moment? You've been 2 days?
It feels really good. Almost feels like a dream. It was such a different world that I was immersed in when I was just waking up and trying to be efficient at getting on the bike every day and trying to spend as much time as I could on the bike every day. And now I've spent 2 days just chilling, and it almost feels like a different lifetime when I was racing.
Got any real good anecdotes from the road, stories?
I did get bit by a dog, but it was so ineffective that it didn't even scratch me. So I had several really scary experiences with dogs where I had to pedal as hard as I could, which was difficult when I was often really exhausted and sometimes on a rough gravel surface that wasn't easy to go fast on anyway. But this time I was in the suburbs, somewhere in the Midwest, in Indiana or Illinois, and one small yappy dog was coming at me from a yard on the right. And so I was kind of bowing out to the left and giving space to that dog and figuring out how I was going to make the turn safely and not have any car issues. And then all of a sudden, another tiny yappy dog came at me from the left. And I just didn't have time to correct away from it. I saw that it was on a leash and I thought that it was going to get stuck before it got to me. And it did jump up and bite me on the ankle, but I was wearing an ankle brace and its tiny mouth just couldn't grab a hold of me. So it put its teeth on my ankle, but it didn't really bite me. And the owner was right there trying to hold the leash and was very apologetic. So it all worked out great. So that was probably the least damaging dog bite that's ever happened, I think.
You had not yet taken on the trails in the East. How were they?
They were fantastic. I was really impressed. Like, I would say conditions started improving in eastern Nebraska and just kind of only got better through the end. The CNO was a little rougher than the Gap, so just in terms of surface difficulty, but almost the whole way through the east, the rail trails were lined with really mature shade trees. Um, and so the effective temperature was maybe 10 degrees cooler than whatever the thermometer was saying, whatever the weather report was saying for the day. And being in that shade and not having to worry about cars just was incredible. It was a beautiful experience cycling through the East.
What did you learn about yourself, Jen?
I learned I'm pretty tough. I learned that if I set my mind to something, I can take pretty heroic measures to accomplish that thing. I was able to ignore a lot of physical complaints, and I was able to manipulate my sleep schedule much more than I expected to be able to, in order to avoid weather. And at the end, I was really fighting with Adam and Greg, and really, we were all duking it out to see which of us would arrive second and which would be, third if it was them or fourth if it was me. Um, and I was able to continue going forward uh, with way less rest than I thought I would need. Um, yeah, I learned I'm pretty tough, pretty resilient.
When you were through here, you were sort of playing a cat and mouse game with the guys. Apparently, they were doing the same with you.
Yeah, it was really fun. They waited at the monument and received me at the monument, which was such a happy surprise. I got in at like 11 p.m. and was preparing to do a solo lap around the monument and just say goodbye to the end of the race alone. And then I saw Carmen, Greg's wife, and I saw Greg and Adam and Desiree. And it was so wonderful to see friendly faces. And after we got done saying, "Oh, hey, how happy, like congratulations, I'm done," we spent a few minutes trading notes about what we had each been thinking of the other at various points along the way and how we kept surprising each other with what we were able to do. I was pretty convinced. I had been seeing on Strava that one of the guys hadn't ridden more than 150 miles at a pop before. And I was pretty sure that I could do consecutive 200-mile days, even though that would take so long that it wasn't really on a normal day schedule. I was pretty convinced that I could just keep putting in massive heroic efforts and build a lead. But they completely surprised me and started putting in massive days themselves and opened up a gap that I just couldn't cover anymore. Which itself turned out kind of nice because I was preparing to go to try to do a single 48-hour push at the end if I thought that that would give me a chance at beating them. And once they got far enough ahead that I no longer had that chance, I was able to have a good sleep and have a much more mellow day for the last day into the finish, which was really nice. It gave me kind of more time for reflection and just a calm way to say goodbye to the end of the trip instead of a frantic push to try to eke out the
Yeah,
win over
yeah,
them.
yeah. You knew the inevitable by then, and
Right, right.
like,
It's like I don't know what kind of mechanical is going to prevent them from covering the last 30 miles. I might as well just accept that they're going to get it and take some sleep.
mechanical issues. You had a few.
Yes. I had twice my tubeless failed and I had to put in a tube. And in each of those circumstances, I ended up flatting the tube at least once, if not more, before I was able to get to a bike shop and restore the tubeless. I had a saddle rail break, which I was still able to limp it into the next city and was able to get a replacement saddle. However, the replacement saddle was not very comfortable for me, and I ended up riding 500 miles from South Dakota through Nebraska on a saddle that was pretty uncomfortable. I wore two sets of chamois during a lot of that time when it wasn't too hot, and that helped give me a little extra cushion and kind of mitigate the damage. And then I had a cassette start coming loose, like the I don't really know the terminology, but the cogs were like kind of freely slipping around
Okay.
unless I was tightening it regularly. And I was able to Adam again. We met at a restaurant somewhere, and he was gracious enough to take a look at it. He's a mechanic and help diagnose the problem and show me the part I needed to tighten to keep rolling. And so it was only through his help that I was able to limp it into the next shop and get that problem fixed too. And I think, oh, I replaced the chain after only 800 miles, which surprised me. And then that new chain has lasted me ever since Bozeman. Um, but I started the race with a new chain, so I was very surprised to be replacing it at mile 800. And I
We
think,
get a lot of grit in them.
what's that?
You get a lot of grit in the
Oh,
chain.
yes. And I'm a pretty poor, I don't take the best care of my equipment. I get too focused on other things and I don't find it very natural to do mechanical chores. And so I pretty much lubed it whenever it was squeaking and wiped it down several times. But I could have been better at chain maintenance for sure.
Well, that's one of the things you learn.
Yeah. I was amazed at the number of deer and rabbits that are out in the countryside. I see deer pretty regularly, rabbits pretty rarely at home. And every day I rode a lot of sunrises and sunsets. Those are my favorite times to be out because that's the light is so beautiful and the animals are more active. And I saw just a tremendous number of deer and rabbits during those times and a lot of other really cool animals too. But I didn't know that the country was just absolutely covered in rabbits.
What's next for you, Jen?
Um, I don't want to state it publicly as a firm commitment, but I am seriously considering doing the Big Sky Spectacular this year. That's sometime mid-August, and it's 900 miles through Montana. Montana was one of my favorite places that I saw this trip, and it's also not too far from home. It's a reasonable drive from home. And I have friends who are doing that ride, and I am really looking forward to it. So I still have to get home and get back on the bike and make sure everything feels good. I haven't been on my bike since I got off of it at the monument. My friend scooped me up in a car. Uh, so I'm not 100% sure. I haven't registered yet. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I'm hoping to do next. There are some big projects that are interesting to me. I have some kind of complicated thoughts on the difference between riding and racing. There were elements of the race that I really entered at somewhere in the middle of the country. I started racing. And racing brought some unique joys and things that I really appreciated, but it also brought some challenges that I'm not sure I would want to sustain for weeks and weeks on end. I really like to take pictures and document the story of the day. And that's obviously not very efficient for racing. I'm wasting time in the race by stopping to take a picture and by taking 20 or 30 minutes at the end of the day to write my notes on the day. Um, I like not being super sleep deprived, and racing is, for the most part, you benefit as a racer by sleeping as little as possible. So I'm not sure if I like racing or what sorts of races I would want to do in the future. But in terms of big projects that are appealing to me, one day I'm interested to try to do the Trans Canada Ultra. It's about twice the distance that this race was. And I think that the ratio of road surface, paved surface, is much higher. And it's also a course that's been designed with car safety in mind. So there are some sections where it's inevitable that you have car risk, but for the most part, it is on relatively quiet, safe roads with good shoulders or on bike trails. So that's something that appeals to me. I don't think I want to do a giant ride like this every single year. It was such an investment. I've been many months now, since about March. All of my time has been focused on getting prepared and training and making sure my equipment was good, and then riding. And now I still have to recover. And that's such a big part of the year that I'm taken away from other interests and activities. I think it might be something that I would do every second or third year to do something massive like this.
Well, now listen, Jen, you're now a part of the Ultracycling magazine family. So anytime you do something like this, remember us.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to share my reports from the road.
Yeah, it was great, and to be able to package them in interesting ways. But what you did a great job, and we really appreciate it, Jen.
Well, thanks.
Good luck to you,
Thank you so much, Lee.
and don't be a stranger to us.
Oh, no way. I'm part of the family. I'll be in touch.
Okay, very good.
Till next time.
Till next time.
This is Gregory Zuber, thanking you for watching and sharing.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.